Hello my darlings and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lulu and it is lovely to have you here. So today's video I thought I would do a first impressions and wear test of this, which is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. So I've just gone and got my phone, and on my phone I'm going to read you what they claim this foundation is and does. So it is meant to be transfer proof, life proof, party proof and waterproof. Long wear formula lasts up to 24 hours, no compromise, full coverage base, ultra stretchable gel formula. Okay. It also says, with this fresh wear foundation, long wear no longer means thick, heavy coverage. The innovative oxygen technology gives you a lightweight feel, whilst an ultra stretchable formula ensures full coverage. Application, a little goes a long way. Okay, so that's what the claims are. I mean, 24-hour wear, I won't be testing, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, I'm not keeping my foundation on for 24 hours. However, I will give it a good 8 to 10 hours, see if it really does last, because if it doesn't last that long, then there's no way it'll ever last 24 hours. Waterproof is also a very big claim, and although I won't test that today, I will give that a test at some point. And I will write in the description box the results of that when I do it. Okay, so to prime, I'm going to use the Soap & Glory One Heck of a Blot Primer. And I just put this in my T-zone. Well, not even my whole T-zone actually, I don't put it on my forehead, but I put it around my nose and on my chin and jawline. And I quite like to press this in. I find it works better. Okay, let's open this up. Got my palette here. Onto my palette, I am going to take one pump. So that gives you, how well you can see that, that gives you kind of quite a liquidy formula. Probably need 2 pumps in fairness. So there's 2 pumps on my palette there. Now I think this is going to be a bit dark because interestingly enough, the first pump, when I put the second pump on top, I don't know how I can show you this without it running everywhere. Yeah, I won't be able to. The first pump is already darker just from being hit by oxygen, and the second pump has come out lighter. So that to me would mean it oxidizes, and it already looks like it'll probably be a little bit too dark for me. So this should be interesting. I'm actually just going to zoom you in a little bit more so you can see my skin better. So give me a second. Okay, so now you're nice and zoomed in. I'm going to do half my face with a beauty blender and half with a foundation brush, just so I can see if there's any difference. So I'm going to dip my beauty sponge in. So they weren't lying when they said a little goes a long way. I've only dipped in once and it's done nearly half my face. Okay, so they weren't lying when they said a little bit went a long way. I only dipped in once with my beauty sponge and it's done the whole of this side of my face. However, I wouldn't say it was instant full coverage. For me, I'd say it's a high medium coverage. The colour actually isn't as bad as I thought it'd be. It is a little yellow and it is a little dark, but I think blended into my jawline I could get away with it fine, providing it doesn't get any darker. I'm going to dip in again and see if I can build up any of the coverage on my cheek where I've still got pigmentation showing. Okay, so it does build. And it's built quite nicely actually. You can really hardly see any pigmentation coming through now at all, which I normally still have a bit no matter what foundation I use because I'm so pale. The contrast shows off a lot darker for my pigmentation, so to have it actually pretty much all covered is something I'm not used to. So I really like how this looks so far on my skin. I think it looks very clean, very fresh, very dewy. Yeah, I can definitely see I've got a glow over my cheeks, and I didn't use a glowy primer at all today, so that definitely is all the foundation, which I really like. I'm going to swap applicators now, and I'm going to use, this is the Morphe X Jaclyn Hill JH03 buffing brush, which is just a very dense kind of buffing kabuki brush. So I'm now going to dip in that and see if there's any difference on the other side of my face. Okay, so it goes nowhere near as far. I've still got a whole pump left on my palette and it's done not even the whole half of my cheek. That actually is quite unusual for me. I normally find that brushes make my foundation go further than my beauty blender because it obviously absorbs product. However, I actually think I prefer the beauty blender for this foundation. I think it applies better. I don't think you get the kind of dewy, even coverage with a brush that I'm getting with the sponge. I will continue with this and see if it gets any better, but so far my preferred application is most definitely a beauty sponge. Okay, so that is one layer, well, 1.5 layers really, because I had to re-go over it to blend it in with the brush. And for me, I've got a mirror here, so I'm just gonna look quite close up. My cheeks look fine on both sides, they look very nice, they look very even. However, on my nose and on my chin, especially kind of around this bit and just here, I definitely prefer a sponge. I think it looks a little bit cakey and separated on my nose where I've used the brush and it's not quite got into all the crevices of my nose as well. And on my chin it also looks slightly separated. It's like you can slightly see where I've got any little dry patches, whereas you can't with the sponge. So I'm actually just going to take my beauty sponge and go over my nose and my chin just to kind of even them out, because I am going to be wearing this all day. Okay, so that's much better now. It's just a lot more even and you just can't see the dry patches as much. Although my skin is combination, I do have some dry patches at the moment because the weather is just so cold in England at the moment. My skin is massively kind of undecided on whether it is oily or dry at this moment in time, and if you have dry skin I would definitely recommend using a beauty sponge over a brush with this. I also thought I would try out the new L'Oreal Infallible concealers. So I have two shades here. I have 320 and 323. Porcelain is 320 and Fawn is 323. One is just slightly more pink toned than the other. So I thought I would test these out today. As you guys saw before I put the foundation on, I have very dark under eye circles and quite deep set under eye circles. So normally, unless it's Tarte Shape Tape, nothing really seems to cover them completely. So I'll be very interested on how this looks on and whether this can kind of dupe that or even just live up to that kind of height. So the applicator, like in Shape Tape, is quite a thick, bigger doe foot, which I quite like because it means you don't have to keep dipping back in and out of the product. However, depending on how full coverage this is and how much coverage you personally want, you might have to be careful just to make sure you don't over apply. So this is shade 320. That's very pale, which is good because most places don't make things this pale. So it's really nice to see that companies are definitely getting better with shade ranges, both for the very pale spectrum and for the women and men with deeper skin tones. Okay, so I'm just gonna blend that in. I might actually, just so it's not quite as stark, just put a little bit of 323 just in between. So I've got the very light colour in my inner corner and then some of the 323, and then it'll go into my foundation just to make sure that the blend isn't as stark. Okay, so let's see how this goes then. Okay, so that is one side all blended in. It is very nice coverage actually. It's given a really nice brightening effect. So my eyes look very much more awake on this side of my face, which you can really see the difference. Much more awake, much more kind of even in its colour, and it just looks better overall. You can't see dark shadows really hardly at all. So no, that's very nice. Same on the other side. Once again, I'm going to use a beauty blender. I personally only really use a beauty blender or my fingers to blend out concealer. I don't like the way it looks on me with a brush. I find it looks too drying. I just really don't like it. Okay, so that's once again all blended in. I really like this concealer straight off the bat. I think it looks really nice. Really nice coverage, feels really kind of light on the skin. It doesn't feel heavy, it doesn't feel cakey at all. It doesn't feel like I've got a lot of concealer sitting on my skin, which I can find with some more full coverage concealers. It's only been on a little bit, which I mean on my eyelid it is creasing, but I have quite a big crease going through my eyelid, so it's gonna settle in there no matter what. However, under my eyes with the little creases, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look like it's emphasising them at all or sitting in them too badly, which I mean, I've only kind of had it on for a couple of minutes, but it does look really nice. So I am gonna set my under eyes. And for this I'm going to use the JH07 brush. I really like this for setting concealer. What I was trying to say was I really like this for setting my under eye concealer. It's a nice shape, so it fits under my eyes really well. Just before I set, I always take my beauty sponge and just go over the area again. Okay, so that's one eye set. Yeah, this concealer is definitely full coverage. I find one of the biggest ways I can tell if a concealer is truly full coverage for me is after I've set my eyes. If it's not full coverage, then the second I set it, the darkness starts to come back and you can instantly see it because powder takes the shine away from the concealer, and that's normally what I find is hiding the darkness rather than the actual coverage. But on this concealer, as you can see, it's still really nicely covered. It's set really nice. It hasn't gone cakey at all. It doesn't look heavy. No, I really like that. I'm also gonna just set around my nose. Then I'm just gonna feel my cheeks. Yeah, I don't feel like this needs setting personally. I think I can easily blend on top of this. So I won't set the rest of my face because I'd quite like to see how it lasts and holds up on its own without the extra help of a powder. I'm just going to do my other eye. Okay, so that looks really nice. Before I go, I'm actually gonna put some bronzer on camera, just so I can test if it goes patchy at all or if it sticks in strange areas. The bronzer I'm gonna use is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Bronzer in Nude Bronze Light. And I'm gonna use the It Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe No. 8 brush. Swirl that in there. With bronzer, especially if I've not set my foundation, I like to kind of tap and then almost swirl lightly over the top. So I'll tap it into the place I want it and just kind of place it directly where I want it. And then I like to just buff slightly over the top, very lightly, just to make sure that there's no marks at all and that it's all blended. Okay, that went on really nicely. It looks really smooth in part of my skin and just looks overall very, very nice. So I'm going to go off camera now and finish the rest of my makeup and I'll be back in a minute. So makeup is on. I was about to put on my mascara and I realised I had a new one to test out. So I thought whilst we're testing product, I'd give it a go. This is the Rimmel London Volume Colourist Mascara. Now it claims, okay, so it's meant to darken bare lashes in 2 weeks. In an instant, lashes appear fuller and longer. Tapered lash identifying brush wraps round with blacker than black pigment. So it's meant to help darken your natural lashes and give a volume effect when it's been worn. So I thought I'd put this on and give it a go. Okay, so that's interesting. So it's quite a small brush. I expected it to be bigger than that, considering it's a volumizing product. Okay, so that's one coat on this eye. I don't know how much of a difference you'll be able to see. 1 minute. Yeah, so you guys can see. So it definitely darkens my lashes and it gives them a bit of length, but I wouldn't necessarily call it volumizing. Another layer on. Okay, so that's a bit better. It definitely builds. But I do feel like it has made my lashes look a little bit spidery. Try it on the other eye. Okay, so that's with 3 layers on each eye now. I definitely say it's made them look slightly spidery. I don't hate it, however it definitely doesn't replace my Miss Your Big from Lancome or my Benefit Roller Lash or any of my favourite mascaras. But it doesn't blow me away. Now, as for the foundation and the concealer, I've been wearing them for about an hour nearly now, and so far I really like them. In fact, I think this could be a new favourite for me. They look so good. I mean, I know it's only an hour, so I'll have to see how it wears throughout the day and I will definitely come back and do some check-ins, but so far I love them. It looks so good on my skin. My skin looks like skin still, but it covers everything I need it to cover and it definitely just looks really, really good. So I will see you guys in a couple of hours. It is now 11 o'clock, so we'll see. I started filming at about 10 though, so I'll say check-in time was then, simply because that's when I put the foundation on, and we will see throughout the day. Hey guys, so it's now about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I've had this on for about 5-6 hours now, and I thought I would come back and check in and see what we think. So if I just zoom you guys in. So I've zoomed you guys in so you can have a proper look at how the foundation is doing and the concealer. So if I get my mirror. So it's definitely still looking good. It definitely started to look a little cakey on my chin and just round corners of my nose. However, the rest of my face looks pretty perfect. You can't really tell a difference from when I put it on, which that for me is brilliant. Same with the concealer. Actually, I think the concealer still looks really good. There's no darkness peeking through, there's no kind of fading or wear being visible under my eyes, so that's perfect for me. The only thing I could say is that on my chin is looking a little bit cakey and just not quite as perfect as when I put it on, but otherwise I think it still looks really nice. So my bronzer and my blush still look really good, and the pigment seems to have stayed really nicely on my skin. Same with my highlight. So yeah, that's about 6 hours in. So we'll see in a couple more hours and see how it goes. Oh, before I forget, so what's on my lips? I will list everything that I've got on my face in the description box below. However, lips, I was wearing Fenty Gloss Bomb earlier, and this is the Lancome Juicy Shakers in Piece of Cake, just for anyone that's wondering. But I will list everything I've got on my face in the description box below, so if you want to know anything, just check down there. I will see you guys in a couple of hours. Hey guys, so it is now 10 to 8 at night, and that means I have been wearing this foundation for, which I think is plenty of time to gather my thoughts and make a full opinion of what I think of this foundation. So I grab a mirror. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to zoom you in so you guys will be able to see what I can see. Okay, so I've zoomed you guys in pretty close in hopes that you'll be able to see what I'm seeing when I look in the mirror, but overall the foundation still looks good. It's still a little cakey on my chin and especially around the sides of my nose, which, one minute, let me see if I can show you guys what I mean. So round, especially this side of my nose, it's quite cakey. Just there, I don't know if you guys can see. You see what I mean? So round the sides of my nose is cakey, and then it's a little bit cakey on my chin. It's not quite as bad this side, but it is a little bit. But otherwise, the rest of my skin looks really nice. I think my forehead especially looks really, really good. And actually where my oils have come through on my forehead, it seems to have helped. I think in future I actually wouldn't use a mattifying primer with this foundation, because the places that I've done that is where it started to cake. So I think this foundation actually probably could do with having a bit of the oil come through later in the day to give it more of that kind of lived in, dewier look. Without it, I think it can look a bit drying. Overall, I love this foundation and concealer. I think they are both absolutely brilliant, especially for the drugstore. Concealer wise, I think it's probably the only drugstore concealer that I can say I really do genuinely like. Foundation, there's a couple, but there's not many, especially not many that I don't have to change the shade and do mixing with. So I will definitely be wearing this again. I think this will be going straight into my vanity, into my permanent rotation. Both of these will, and I'll be interested to see how they work with other primers and how the concealer sits on other foundations. But overall, I absolutely love these. I think you guys can see on my skin, it just looks really nice. And I think without the mattifying primer, I think that'll get rid of those cakey issues around my nose and on my chin. But I'm really happy with this, you guys. I'm slightly surprised how much I like this. I wasn't expecting it to kind of wow me, and it has. So yeah, very happy. Let's have a quick look at the mascara. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it has actually transferred and smudged under this eye quite a bit. I've got quite a few dark patches and dots all under my eye here from where it's smudged and transferred. It's not as bad on the other eye for some reason. Ironically, it only seems to have done it on one eye, which I don't know why. I can't quite explain that one. But overall, it's nice, it's pretty, it does the job, I suppose, if you've not got anything else. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't love it, and it's not something that I'll reach for very often, if at all. I think there are much better mascaras out there. So that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, then please do hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you back and to get to know you guys better. If you have tried this foundation, write your opinion of it in the comments, and if there's any other new foundations or concealers you'd like me to try out, or just anything in general. I always love an excuse to go shopping when it comes to makeup. Just write it down and I will give it a go. Bye guys!